So this is how the Zimbabwe gold game works. From the ground to Dubai. I want you to picture this. It's 1849, the California gold rush. Thousands of prospectors are descending on Nevada, Sierra, with nothing but pickaxes and dreams. You fast forward 176 years, you're in Zimbabwe, 2025. And the gold rush hasn't ended, it simply evolved. The pickaxe remains, but now you have Chinese mills, South African buyers, Dubai refineries, and machete-wielding syndicates. A government desperate for dollars, and a businessman called Scott Sakupwanye. He controls half of the country's gold flow. This is Zimbabwe's billion-dollar underground economy. First, understand the value chain. There is 8 levels of the gold journey. Level 1, the Korokoza, the diggers who are at the bottom. At the foundation sits Zimbabwe's 700,000 to 1.5 million artisanal miners. These are the men, sometimes women in their 20s to 30s, often former farmers displaced by droughts or economic collapse. They descend into abandoned shafts with nothing but picks, shovels, ropes, and a torch strapped to their heads. The economics is brutal, but my God is it seductive. A Korokoza typically works in a syndicate, a profit-sharing collective, where labor, claim owners, sponsors, and milling operators will all split the profits. The most common distribution is 50% to the laborers after expenses, and then the remaining dividend amongst the sponsors, the claim owners, and the landowners. If you are pure labor with no capital, expect 1/3 of net profits after equipment and milling costs. During 2025's gold bull, with prices hitting 118 per gram, at Fidelity, a successful Korokoza in a productive syndicate might earn 600 to 1,000 monthly, exceptional by Zimbabwean standards where unemployment exceeds 90%. But here's the ugly. Most operate illegally. Estimates range between 70 to 80% of Zimbabwean artisanal miners lack proper licenses. The initial capital barrier is real. Prospecting license are going to cost you about $75. Registration as an approved prospector is going to run you $3,000 for 5 years. Pegging and registration fees add another $1,000 to $2,000. And then there's the beacon installation, site plans, the annual inspections at $75 per hectare. But for a man who fled a failed crop in Mashonal in the east, $5,000 in upfront costs is fantasy capital. So here comes level 2, the sponsors and the binga, the shadow capitalists. So enter the sponsor, the binga. These are the individuals who accumulated enough capital to fund mining operations. A sponsor provides capital, fuel, or generators. Diesel is going to run about $1.50 per liter, and you burn through hundreds of liters every month. Explosives, food for the workers, transport, critical mining fees. The sponsor model operates on advanced financing. So you find a syndicate of 10 to 20 Makorokoza. You advance them, living expenses of $1,000 to $5,000 weekly. You cover the milling costs at $10 to $30 per ton depending on the mill. And in return, you take 30 to 50% of the gold recovered. If the ore grade is good, say 2 to 5 grams per ton, you're printing money. If it's poor, you just subsidize someone else's failure. The successful binga becomes a buyer, purchasing gold from another syndicate at 90 to 100 grams and selling it to a licensed dealer at 105 to 118 per gram, pocketing 10 to 15 grams arbitrage. The best binga becomes mabos, the influential buyers who only purchase gold but become sponsors themselves, creating vertical integration from the pit to the sale. Some, like Scott himself, started as a humble Makorokoza, or workers under white dealers, accumulated capital and climbed the entire chain. Level number 3 is the owners of the mill. These are the toll takers. So, mills are the unavoidable checkpoint. Artisanal miners don't have sophisticated equipment. They extract the ore and transport it to a registered milling facility. The mill registration costs are going to be about $750 with annual fees. But the real money is in the volume, because the mill charges $10 to $30 per ton milled depending on the service. Basic crushing versus gold recovery with concentrators. Here is where the economics gets interesting. A mill processing 50 tons daily at $20 per ton generates $1,000 to $30,000 monthly in fees alone. Pure profit minus electricity and maintenance. The mill owner also often negotiates a percentage of the gold recovered, particularly if they provide chemical processing services. Then you have level 4, the licensed gold buyers, the government gatekeepers. So this is where Scott enters as the dominant player. The model is elegant. You have licensed buyers who purchase gold from artisanal miners and in the syndicates at a slight discount to Fidelity posted price. Typically that's $100 to $105 per gram. When Fidelity then pays the 105 to 118, the margin seems thin at $5 to $13 per gram. But if you scale that, if you're buying 500 kgs, achievable for a major buyer, that's $2.5 to $6.5 million in gross margin monthly, or $30 to $78 million every year. The real advantage is in the payment structure. Since 2024, small-scale miners delivering to Fidelity receive 100% payment in US dollars with no surrender requirement. But the large-scale miners, they must surrender 30% of earnings for local currency and overvalued official rates. That means the licensed buyers then exploit this by funneling their purchase through artisanal channels, avoiding the 30% haircut. Parliamentary inquiries confirmed that large-scale miners were using licensed buyers as fronts to circumvent the forex controls. It's genius, right? The genius arbitrage is either the beauty or the curse of regulatory capture. Now, Better Brands operates buying centers nationwide, deploys agents to remote areas, and crucially provides credit. Scott funds the miners with inputs, fuel, chemicals, equipment, loans, living advances. This creates a dependency and loyalty. 2025 reports suggested that Scott had over 1,000 makorokoza under his belt. That's not just market share, that's a private supply chain. Now let me take you to level 5. This is the Fidelity Gold Refinery level, where the sole legal buyer. Every gram of gold legally produced in Zimbabwe must flow through the Fidelity Gold Refinery, which is a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. There is no legal alternative. Fidelity operates 17 buying centers nationwide with plans to expand and acts as buyer, refiner, and exporter. Fidelity has a pricing that tracks international spot gold prices minus costs. So as for October, for example, today, they will pay you $118.26 for high grade. The payment structures vary. Small-scale miners get 100% in US dollars. Large-scale miners receive 70% US dollars, 30% in local currency. Payments are typically made within a 7-day window. They're operating near capacity, which explains the government's push for private refineries, which includes Scott and his facility that is putting up in Bulawayo. Now let me take you to level 6, the smugglers. This is the shadow exporters. This is where the billions vanish. Minister Winston Chitando stated in 2025 that Zimbabwe loses 40% of gold revenues, that's $2.2 billion US dollars every year, to smuggling and side marketing instead. But even the conservative estimates suggest that $100 million US dollars monthly is disappearing across the borders. The smuggling routes are well established. You have South Africa via Beitbridge and informal crossings, and then you have Mozambique via Mtare, then you have Zambia, and you obviously have the direct routes to Dubai. The arbitrage is always compelling. While Fidelity pays 118 per gram, black market buyers in 2025 can offer 130 to 150 per gram. No questions asked. For a Korokoza who waited for weeks, or a syndicate that doesn't want government scrutiny, that $20 to $30 per gram premium is irresistible. When you're milling 10 kgs monthly, that's 200,000 to 300,000 US dollars extra. It's enough to take the risk. Dubai's gold so are the endpoint. The UAE is Zimbabwe's third largest export destination and the biggest buyer of Zimbabwean gold. The UAE imposes minimal scrutiny on gold origins, creating a sanctions evasion highway. Now let me take you to level 7, the international buyers and refiners. These are the market makers. Zimbabwe lost its London Bullion Market Association accreditation in 2008 when production collapsed to 3 tons during the economic meltdown. Without direct LBMA access, Zimbabwe must sell through intermediaries, primarily in the UAE, who take 10 to 20% of the spread. In 2024, this cost Zimbabwe $500 million US dollars in revenue. Scott's planned Bulawayo refinery is going to target this gap. If operational, it would process gold from across Africa, create finished products, bars, coins, jewelry, and potentially export directly to international markets, recapturing the 10 to 20% margin I'm talking about that we lost out. Think of it as Dubai, but in Zimbabwe, a regional beneficiation hub where raw gold enters and London good delivery bars exit. The economics is staggering. A 50-ton annual capacity refinery processing at 3,500 US dollars per ounce generates $5.6 billion in throughput. Even a 5% margin on processing is $280 million annually. Now let me take you to level 8, the arbitrage players, the currency traders. Here is where it gets sophisticated. Zimbabwe operates a dual system. The gold-backed ZiG, officially pegged around $1 US dollar to 26.8, but trading on the black market at 40 to 50 ZiG per US dollar. Smart operators exploit this ruthlessly. Here's the scenario. You deliver gold to Fidelity, receive payment in US dollars. Then you convert a portion to ZiG at a favorable black market rate, buying ZiG cheaply. Then you use the ZiG to pay local expenses, that's your labor, your taxes, and official rate. Then you spread the profit alternatively. If you're a large miner, you're forced to accept 30% in ZiG. You immediately sell that on the black market, recover 50 to 60% of the dollar value, rather than 100% of the official. But that's still better than holding a depreciating currency. The government's 30% surrender requirement for large miners was specifically designed to capture forex and support the ZiG currency. But sometimes it backfires because miners then channel production through artisanal fronts, or they simply smuggle it out. The arbitrage opportunities created by currency controls are paradoxically fueling the very smuggling the controls were meant to stop. Beautiful economic irony, isn't it? The actors, let me give you the actors, the rogues gallery and kingsmakers. Obviously, first you have Scott, the man who owns half the gold. Scott's journey reads like a screenplay. From a Vuku township, he started as a gardener for a white gold dealer named Iwan Macmillan. He became a buyer under him. He identified the massive leakage through smuggling. He approached then the RBZ Governor Gideon Gono for a buying license. And then the government's formalization push came, and that put him into dominance. When he got his license, gold deliveries to Fidelity surged 600% from 4 tons in 2008 to 35 tons and more per year. In 2022, Better Brands delivered 18 tons as 50% of the national production, worth $1.2 billion in revenue. My God. By 2024, he was delivering 13 to 14 tons annually. He's now the chairman of the National Gold Buyers Association, a ZANU-PF MP, after a controversial 2023 by-election, and is building a private gold refinery in Bulawayo, projected to operationally start going by 2026. He controls the Red Wing mine in Penalonga. He occupies mining claims worth millions and commands a network of over 1,000 artisanal miners. Critics will call it elite capture and political patronage. Doesn't matter. Supporters call it formalization and economic empowerment. The truth is it's both. Scott is what happens when entrepreneurial talent meets government favor, timing meets ruthless execution. The Makorokoza and the syndicates, these are the nomadic army. They are the muscle. Syndicates range from organized permanent operations with registered claims to impromptu alliances that form at gold rushes and dissolve weeks later. Some are headed by former farmers, some are headed by urbanites who are fleeting unemployment, many by young men who are averaging in their 20s with no formal education, seeking quick cash. But critically is that they're mobile. When a new gold seam is discovered, there's a gold rush. Thousands converge within days. Philadelphia in 2025 saw an influx that transformed the town. BMW X5s and Land Rover Defenders lined up in the streets. Whiskey is sold only by the bottle. Modern brick houses with solar panels and electric fences are rising. That wealth comes from Makorokoza, who struck productive seams during the gold price surge. But mobility brings violence. Enter the Mashurugwi, the machete-wielding gangs that control mining territories through force. Contrary to the stereotype, Mashurugwi isn't one group. It's a label applied to multiple gangs. Timbasa, Maziga, Makrigamba, Magi, each with territorial claim and alliances. They emerged from the competition for gold rush sites, but now they are evolved into organized crime, robberies, rape, home invasions. Henrietta is the symbol of the sector's opacity. The ZMF lobbies for artisanal interests, fair pricing, timely payments, reduced licensing, access to equipment, formalization programs. They signed the 2025 MOU with the Association of Mining Surveyors to help members meet new cadastral mapping requirements. Critical as the government digitizes mining title administration. But ZMF also faces accusations of political links. Now let's go to the foreign buyers, Dubai's gold dealers. The UAE has a role that cannot be overstated. Zimbabwe's gold flows to Dubai primarily through 3 channels: legal exports via Fidelity, smuggled gold via couriers, and complex wash trading through countries like Eswatini. In 2021, of Zimbabwe's 36 tons legally exported, an estimated 20% went through UAE channels. But illegal flows dwarf that. Dubai gold traders don't ask questions. They pay cash. They provide logistics. They blend Zimbabwean gold into global supply chains where it then emerges as Swiss gold or UAE gold, provenance laundered. So here's the playbook: how to enter the game. For the desperate, if you have $500 to $2,000 starting capital, what you do is you join a syndicate as pure labor. No licenses, no claims, just pick and shovel. Find a sponsor willing to advance your living costs. You take home 15 to 33% of net proceeds depending on the syndicate structure. The risk is illegal operation, might bring you an arrest, and you have no social protection. Exposure to Mashurugwi violence is also within that price. The reward is you can make $300 to $600 monthly if the ore is decent, potentially $1,000 plus in bonanza months. For the ambitious, if you have $5,000 to $15,000 starting capital, what you do is you obtain a prospecting license that will cost you $75. You register as a proof prospector, that will cost you about $3,000. You peg a claim in an open area, and then you register it, that will cost you another $1,500. You hire 5 to 10 laborers, you rent or purchase basic equipment, that's jackhammers, compressor, generator. Then you've got the contract milling services. You operate a small registered syndicate. The risk is high upfront costs, uncertain ore grades, equipment breakdowns, regulatory compliance burdens. You're the claim owner taking 30 to 50% of the proceeds. At 10 pages per month, sold at $100 per gram, that's $1 million gross, minus costs of $300,000 to $500,000, netting $550,000 to $750,000 every year. That's life-changing. Now, for those who are capitalized, you bring in $50,000 to $200,000 in starting capital. You become a sponsor or a buyer. You fund multiple syndicates. You provide equipment. You negotiate gold purchasing agreements at $95 to $100 per gram. You sell to licensed dealers or Fidelity at the same price. You establish relationships with mill owners for volume discounts. You register as a gold buying agent. That's $100,000 to get a dealing license for 5 years. You scale horizontally. More syndicates, more volume, thin margins, but you multiply. The risk is capital loss if syndicates underperform, regulatory exposure, bandit activity, reliance on trust networks. But the reward is $5 to $15 per gram margin on 100 to 500 kgs per month worth of throughput. That's $7.5 million that you're grossing every year. For the connected, you probably need $500,000 as starting capital. But you must make sure you have political access. Follow the Scott model. Obtain a gold buying license. Build a nationwide buying network. Fund hundreds of artisanal miners. Establish buying centers. Contract with Fidelity for high volume deliveries. Leverage government incentives, the 5% bonuses for deliveries under 10 kgs. Vertically integrate, acquire mills, claims, processing plants, plan a refinery. The risk is political risk if government changes, regulatory changes, reputational exposure. But the reward is you control 10 to 50% of national production, you generate $500 million to $2 billion in annual throughput, you capture 5 to 10% margins, you build political capital, you potentially transition into parliament or into a much higher office. Now let's go to the profit margins, the real numbers. I want to break it down stage by stage. So the Corocosa, the laborer, can make about $300 to $1,000 per month. That's $12,000 per year. The syndicate operator, small claim owner, can make $750,000 per year, depending on ore grade and scale. The sponsor, the binga, the founder, can make $100 to $500,000 a year on a capital deployment of $100,000. The mill owner is making about $240,000 per year. The licensed gold buyer is making about $2 million per year on 100 to 200 kgs monthly throughput. The refinery, I'm going to give a projection. That'll make about $280 million per year, depending on capacity and margins. So let me give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here is the good. Gold mining directly employs 500,000 people in Zimbabwe, supports 2 to 3 million Zimbabweans indirectly. It contributes almost 2% to GDP. 18% of exports and 70% of production now comes from artisanal miners who were previously excluded. The 2024 to 2025 gold price rally enriched rural areas. So if you go to Philabusi, Mazowe, Kwekwe, these places are booming. BMW dealerships are doing business in villages. Solar panel and water tank sales are surging. It's a genuine wealth transfer from global markets to Zimbabwean grassroots. Here's the bad. The sector remains 70 to 80% informal. The smuggling is still bleeding $2.2 billion annually. The large-scale miners circumvent forex surrender through artisanal fronts, which undermines the policy goals. Licensing is still very expensive. This excludes the majority. Creates a permanent informal underclass. The equipment costs are prohibitive because without credit, you can't really self-fund and banks don't lend to artisanal miners. Accidents and deaths are common but underreported. The 30% surrender requirement for large-scale miners is driving capital flight, and it's discouraging investment. It's a self-inflicted wound born out of desperation for forex and currency support. I actually understand it and absolutely support it. But that's the bad. Now here's the ugly. The machete gang violence, the mashurugi, the attacks, the rapes, the home invasions, the territorial wars. Last year alone, there was over 25 cases of machete violence nationwide. Police response has been inconsistent. Some of the gangs are reportedly protected by politicians and security personnel. Now, when it comes to elite capture, it's Scott. He controls 40 to 50% of production through a network of sponsored miners. So, Zimbabwe's gold sector in 2025 is simultaneously a success story and a cautionary tale. Production is up, 40% artisanal miners are thriving during the price rally. Rural towns are booming, and the sector may generate $4 billion this year on exports. Genuine economic transformation. Well done. The problem still is the $2 billion vanishing annually because of smuggling, the violence that plagues the mining communities, the elite operators like Scott who capture incentives meant for the poor, the forex controls that sometimes distort decisions. So, for the aspiring gold miner, the playbook is clear. You start small as labor. You accumulate capital. You formalize, if possible. You build relationships. You scale horizontally. And if you're connected, you capture regulatory advantages. The margins exist at every level, from the Corocosa to Scott. Zimbabwe's gold rush is far from over. Global prices are projected to hit 10,000 by 2026, and production capacity is expanding. So the next 5 years will determine whether this becomes a sustainable pillar of development or another resource curse characterized by inequality, corruption, and conflict. The gold is there. The opportunity is there. The question is, Who captures the value and at what cost? Until next time, head bowed.